Back to hardball. If you want to influence someone, get to him or her in high school. It's my experience that people at that age are the most impressionable, the most searching for guidance, for example, for purpose. It was in high school that I came under the charm and the influence of William F. Buckley Jr., the dashing, charismatic young conservative who wrote Guided Man at Yale, McCarthy and His Enemies, and founded the wistful, precocious, companionable monthly National Review. As a high schooler, I could tell you which drugstore got National Review first. I went to hear Bill Buckley at a meeting of the Montgomery County Young Republicans. It was from National Review that I gained my early affection and appetite for political philosophy and argument. To start out as a young conservative is not, let's look at the facts, to end up there. But you have to start somewhere. You have to care before you can think before you can change your mind, and in my case, not stop changing your mind. I owe that start to the man who died today at his desk. The great author, writer, sailor of the ocean sea, alpine skier, Renaissance man, and in mine, as in so many millions of cases, teacher and political guidance counselor. I offer two last thoughts on Bill Buckley. In the 1950s, when it needed to be done, he exorcised old conservatism from its pre-World War II isolationism and its redolent anti-Semitism. There's something else that needs to be said for William F. Buckley Jr. It concerns his own religious faith. He wrote once of the young man who stood alone in an empty church juggling balls in the air. It was something he could do, throw balls into the air and catch them, each without dropping, in a swirling feat of personal mastery. As I said, it's something he could do. It was the one thing he could offer up to God when they were, as best as he could arrange it, alone together. And all the books and columns he wrote, and all the editions of National Review he published, our great William F. Buckley Jr. was offering up his prayer. This is what he could do. This is what he was doing, his work, at his desk when he was taken home. To work is to pray. Laborare est orare.
Our guests today on Meet the Press are the three leading candidates for mayor of New York City. William F. Buckley Jr., editor of the National Review and candidate of the Conservative Party. John V. Lindsay, member of the House of Representatives and candidate of the Republican and Liberal parties. Abraham D. Beam, the present New York City Comptroller and the Democratic candidate.
Then, what do you think of the American voter?
Well, I think the American voter often has intuitions which are better than those of their own presidents. That is to say, I think that presidents during the recent period, tend to have drawn more strength from the voters than the voters from their presidents. As Franklin Adams once said, I think the average American is a little bit above average. And under the circumstances, I rejoice over the influence of the people over their elected leaders, since by and large I think that they show more wisdom than their leaders or than their intellectuals. I've often been quoted as saying I would rather be governed by the first 2,000 people in the Boston Telephone Directory than by the 2,000 people on the faculty of Harvard University.
Without Bill Buckley, no National Review. Without no National Review, no Goldwater nomination. Without the Goldwater nomination, no conservative takeover of the Republican Party. Without that, no Reagan. Without Reagan, no victory in the Cold War. Therefore, Bill Buckley won the Cold War.
You didn't just part the Red Sea. You rolled it back, dried it up, and left exposed for all the world to see the naked desert that is statism. And you did it without an environmental impact statement.
Good evening. I'm William F. Buckley. Welcome to Firing Line.
This is my chief worry as a conservative, that we have put so much power in the office of the presidency that someday the wrong man could come along. And I wouldn't be so concerned about whether he could use these powers to perpetuate himself in office, but how he would use these powers to destroy people that disagreed with him, to pile up voters where voters don't usually pile up.
And now we're going to come to the question and answer period of the program. We're going to discuss some of the salient events of 1967 and to counterbalance my views, which are desperately liberal and criminal at times, is one of the most controversial and charming men on television, Mr. William F. Buckley Jr. Let me start out in a wonderfully warm and general way. And since we want to discuss 1967, I'd like to get your opinion on the year in general. I mean, did you think for the United States it was a good year or a disaster year, or how would you rate it?
Oh, somewhere in between. A little closer to disaster than to good. Wouldn't you say?
For me, personally, it was a terrible year. Yes, but for the country at large.
Even though you don't live in Detroit.
Yes, but my mother scribbled Soul Brother on the side of a synagogue. On from there, I want to ask a question because there's somebody in the dock there or at the lectern.
Mr. Buckley, who would you like to see as the presidential nominee for 1968?
Oh, somebody who would beat Johnson.
Could be anybody, including the Boston Strangler. Lady, what's your question?
Mr. Buckley, do you think miniskirts are in good taste?
Do I think what?
Miniskirts are in good taste.
On you, I think they are. Good legs are in good taste.
Good legs. I never would have figured you for that kind. I figured it was straight politics, and that was it. You said.
What would your reactions be to a conservative president?
A conservative president? My opinion has always been, not hostile. I would like to see you or another conservative be president for a year. And I think it would cure the United States of conservatism forever.
I think the probability is that you voted for Lyndon Johnson. I didn't. And it's interesting how many people are dissatisfied with the alternative to conservatism. You remind me a little bit of Evelyn Waugh said one time about Nancy Mitford that, she voted for the socialists after the war in England. And having done her best to make England uninhabitable, she went to France to live. You people complaining about Lyndon Johnson, the ones who voted for him, aren't you?
We are, but we were faced with a bleak, if not miserable, alternative.
Mr. Allen, in your terms, what does liberal mean?
Liberal? Oh. Well, you've got me on this. If a girl will neck with me, she's liberal. If Mr. Buckley will neck with me, he's very liberal.
Mr. Buckley, do you think Robert Kennedy will ever become president of the United States?
Well, if he can induce all the Kennedys to vote for him, yes.
Buckley, I've heard that people have refused to be on your show. Can you tell us who they are and why?
Well, I wrote Mr. Allen 3 or 4 times. And, he just never answered, but I've always assumed it was the Christmas mail.
I would certainly be willing to come on your show and debate major issues. I think I would like to stay away from anything meaningful, however.
Well, some people don't like to exchange opinions with people who disagree with them sharply because they get sort of used to not being disagreed with. And it's sort of an unpleasant sensation to come face to face with people who analyze situations differently. William Fulbright is an example, or Wayne Morse.
These people have refused to come on your show?
Yeah. Bobby Kennedy.
Bobby Kennedy. Well, is it because you pay the minimum?
I never thought of that.
We've run out of time, unhappily, and we really do have to wrap it up. I really do want to thank you because it was really nice of you to take the time from your work and
I
to
enjoyed
come over
seeing you.
and chat. It was a great pleasure for me, and I hope that you did enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any regrets about this life that you have lived?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, I'm not sure I'd tell you. Well, maybe I would if I could discern them clearly. I had an experience when I was asked to do a fresh introduction to God, Man, and Yale on its 25th anniversary.
Right. I remember.
And I started reading. I practically fainted
because
I thought it was so awful.
But you were only 22 or something.
Yeah, but the point is that as you grow older, I think it's true that you become more exacting in respect of your own performances, so that I always regret, if ever I have reason to read something that I have written, that it wasn't better.
Do you wish you were 20?
No, absolutely not. No, I would. If I had a pill which would reduce my age by 25 years, I wouldn't take it.
Why not?
Because I'm tired of life.
Are you really?
Yeah. I really am. I'm utterly prepared to stop living on.
So Bill Buckley left us this morning. He was probably more ready than we were. As much as anyone, I valued him. When I came to the city and started doing this show 16 years ago, I was little known and had not made my mark in life. He came on, and then he sent me a handwritten note with enormous flattery, and I lived with the hope I didn't disappoint his early prophecy. We became friends. Several years ago when I was sick and came back from near death, he called and wanted to take me to dinner. He wanted me to sail, and I never accepted until one evening he said to me, "I'm not sailing anymore. I'm not doing a lot of the things I used to do anymore." Why don't I ever learn? There is not always tomorrow. I last saw him at Pat's memorial service, and I knew her death was a last crushing disappointment for him. People were walking by as he sat in a chair on the front row after the service. I was last in line, and when I stopped, he looked up, and he saw me, and he started crying. And I said, "I will come see you," thinking there will always be a tomorrow. And now he is gone. There is no tomorrow. But what a life, what a man, and what a friend. We think of the wife he joins and the son he leaves and the rest of the Buckley clan. Good night, Bill. Good night to you.